and welcome to FRCmedia News for Thursday, October 31st, 2019. Happy Halloween. Be safe tonight. I'm Donna Mata. Fall River's final election is coming up this coming Tuesday, November 5th. Tonight's program is all about the candidates and their responses to key issues facing the city. That's on the FRCmedia side. But before we get into all of that, let's welcome Phil Devitt from the Fall River Herald News. And he's going to tell us what's happening on the current mayor's front. And as everyone knows by now, Mayor Correa has suspended his campaign, even though his name will be on that final election ballot on November 6th on Tuesday. So people could vote for them if they so choose, or the other two candidates. But there's also some current news that went on this week. Why don't we start with the judge's decision in the mayor's indictment case?
Yes, Donna. So, for the longest time, at least, dating back to early summer, it looked like the start of Mayor Correa's trial was going to be in February of 2020. But, of course, that was before he was arrested a second time in September. So it looked for a while like, okay, this trial might be pushed back, and now it's looking even more like that. A judge has granted a request made in a joint memorandum by the prosecution and defense in Correa's case to push back a status conference. Originally, a status conference pre-trial was scheduled for October 30th, and on that very day, the judge granted the request to cancel it, instead scheduling another status conference for December 12th. So what does that mean? It likely means that Correa will not go to trial February 24th, 2020. When will he go to trial? We don't know. That depends on a couple of things here. The reason behind the request is twofold. One, attorneys say they have a lot of information to sort through, an estimated 74,000 pages of discovery now between Correa's two arrests. And they're also dealing with the recent indictment of Correa's former chief of staff, Jen Andrade. So both of those factors play a role here. Now, Correa, of course, as you mentioned, Donna, is on temporary absence from office. He has pleaded not guilty, and so has Jen Andrade. So it remains to be seen when this will go to trial, but at least we have a date for a conference in December now.
And this doesn't really come as a surprise, however, because people were wondering if the February trial would actually come up, quote unquote, relatively this fast. But like you said, we'll see. Right. And there was also an incident with Jaziel Correa, the current mayor, bringing a city-owned car to a destination in Bridgewater where he was arrested the first time. And tell us about what's going on with that.
Yeah, so, that was one of many points of controversy. The first time Correa was arrested in October of last year, his city-owned vehicle being found with him in Bridgewater, and questions over its use for official city business. Well, now with the mayor stepping aside after his second arrest, he has returned that city-owned Chevrolet Tahoe to the police department, where it originally belonged, and the department is now fitting it for police use once again. And Cliff Ponte, of course, acting mayor here in the city, said that his first order of business after Correa stepped aside was to get this vehicle returned to the police department. He told us that it was the, quote, easiest decision anybody could ever make, adding that the department has a shortage of fleet vehicles. So this is going to come in handy for them. And our reporter here at the Herald News, Amanda Burke, did some number crunching on the use of this Tahoe while it was used by the mayor. Correa filled it up with gasoline at the police department's fueling station, and so that was taxpayer money going into this vehicle. We checked to see if this is a normal thing for mayors to do in southeastern Massachusetts municipalities, checking with New Bedford and Taunton, and officials there say that's not how it's done there. The mayors, fill the cars up on their own, but the fuel in this particular case was paid for out of the police department budget, according to Mary Sahadi, Director of Finance here in the city. But for now, we've got this vehicle. It's back with the police department, and hopefully will be put to good use.
And we'll see. We'll see how that all rolls out in the future. But presently, we have 3 candidates' names that will appear on the ballot. And we had forums, part of which you were a panelist on, and it was mayoral, city council, and school committee. And during the mayoral interviews we had, and this wasn't a forum, this was an in-studio FRCmedia news interview done with our Keith Tebow over here, we had a conversation with Paul Coogan, who's one of the candidates, and we asked him about economic development and what he would do to improve the city should he be elected to office. And Phil, this is what he had to say.
As far as economic development, you look at you look at Diamond, you look at Durfee, you look at this campus, BCC, UMass Dartmouth. All those things have to tailor their programs to fit the economic development needs of an area. I was talking to the President Laura Douglas, and she was talking about BCC's focus on shifting a lot of their programs towards wind energy.
Right.
That's what we need to do. At Durfee, I was touring a manufacturing company down on Bedford Street. They need stitchers. There are kids in Fall River right now that need a check. They need money. I would love to see them get into a vocational program right in that factory where they train how to sew, stitch, do whatever this company needs, and go straight to work. They have a 10 or 20 week program where they train them. And some of our graduating seniors that don't have college aspirations might fit into a program like that. But that's what economic development is, getting the right workers in the right jobs so they're happy, they make a living, and they can support themselves and their family. I think we have to definitely ramp up economic development, and it's tie in with our local educational places for sure, no doubt.
Now, as we know, there was a write-in candidate too, or will be a write-in candidate, City Administrator Kathy Ann Viveiros, on the ballot on Tuesday. She announced her candidacy the day after Mayor Correa suspended his campaign. And this is what she had to say in terms of economic development.
We are currently working on a grant from Mass Development for downtown revitalization. And it's a great strategy. I'd like to see it extended to the Flint section of the city, the South Main, our other commercial districts. So that is already underway, and I would like to see that expanded. And then we're into our local economy overall. It's time for us to embrace emerging technologies. They have better paying jobs. They do require some workforce training. But these are all things that we've actually been working on for the past year. And I will say our new economic development executive director has been very effective with that. So we're going to be announcing a movement in that direction. And what it's going to do is give us a diversified economic base. As a gateway city, we were very reliant on the textiles and the apparel, and of course a lot of that went overseas. What we're seeing now in textiles is that's being rejuvenated because it's marrying new technology with apparel and textile. And that's going extremely well for us currently in the city right now with Merrow manufacturing. And we're also moving into marine-related technology, wind energy, and so we need that diversification. We need to be poised for the jobs of the future.
And that's what's happening in terms of what's going on with the mayoral candidates. This was a conversation that was given by our own Keith Tebow, and if you'd like to see the entire conversation, you can tune into our local station 95. So Phil, what do you have coming up with the paper this week?
So Northeast Alternatives is currently the only recreational marijuana store in the city. Neighbors are voicing complaints over traffic and noise. Well, now the city's traffic commission and the company are coming together to talk solutions. Time will tell if they resonate with any of the residents of that neighborhood. So we'll have that story for our readers coming up.
Very good, and we'll talk more about it next week. Phil, thank you very much. You have a great Halloween. Be safe when you're out there tonight. Be safe driving.
You too.
Thank you. Have a great week. We'll see you next week. We'll have more FRC Media News right after this.
Here are some job descriptions on the latest hot jobs list from the MassHire Fall River Career Center. Accountant, The Boys and Girls Club of Fall River, located at 803 Bedford Street, is looking for a full-time accountant to provide financial information to management by researching and analyzing accounting data and preparing reports. Job number 127-81346. Teacher, Learnwell Fall River, located at 1082 Davall Street, is looking for a part-time certified teacher to teach adolescent age students grades 7 through 12 in a behavioral health partial hospitalization setting. Job number 127-79520. Welder Fabricator, Sons Marine and Industrial Incorporated, located at 998 Cherry Street, is looking to hire a full-time welder fabricator to work on projects to design, cut, shape metal, and create new objects or structures. Job number 127-77201. South Coast Physician Group, located at 300 Hanover Street, is looking to fulfill the following full and part-time positions. Phlebotomist, job number 127-80138. Registered Nurse Case Coordinator, job number 127-80142. The Fall River Public School Department, located at 417 Rock Street, is also looking to fulfill the following full and part-time positions. 5th grade paraprofessional, job number 127-81275. Instructional support aide, job number 127-81174. For more information on these or other positions, visit masshirejobquest.detma.org or call the MassHire Fall River Career Center at 508-730-5000.
Welcome back. In addition to the mayor's race in the final election, the city's registered voters will also cast their ballots for city council. FRCmedia hosted candidates' forums here at Bristol Community College, still being aired on our local Channel 95. And tonight we have the responses from the remaining candidates who participated in that event. The second city council candidate panel was asked to give their views on economic development issues.
Now, there's been a lot of talk about streetscapes versus, a broader transportation investment program, and I think that probably is wise. I mean, we all know that there are whole areas of the city that it's tough to find a street to drive on that isn't going to potentially damage your vehicle, but the Streetscapes program showed that if you concentrate money into a certain area, it can make a dramatic impact. But I think right now what you're hearing from the voters of the city is we'd rather see that investment spread across the entire city so that everybody can benefit from it.
I believe the Correa administration did well when it came to police, fire, and some financial practices were great for the city. There's a lot of things I disagreed with this administration, and when it comes to streetscapes, I personally believe it is time that we end Correa's streetscapes and allocate the funding to a general street and sidewalk repair. And when we talk about moving on, there's one issue I want to bring up with that. I think it's time for a transition. For example, we still have the mayor's face on the city website. I believe it's time to remove him so there's no more shame and embarrassment for our community. But that being said, we should continue some of the good practices going on and eliminate the bad.
As far as initiatives, again, at last night's meeting we had the streetscapes. I have a resolution to rescind the funding for the streetscapes that have not gone out to bond yet, because unfortunately what we've seen is the ones that have been completed are either over budget and being litigated, or they are not a great product. And we're having issue with a vendor that needs to be paid versus the quality of the work that was done. So when you have two projects that are done without great success, it's hard to keep going and hope that the next one will be better.
Thank you. Mr. Lee. Streetscapes is obviously one of the more unpopular policies that Correa implemented. I never supported it from the get-go because of how it was funded. I didn't think that we had a real repair plan in place when we were putting this out there. And bonding, not really a big fan of bonding for something that can get damaged so quickly as a sidewalk or a road. So I was not happy with how that whole process went down. And that's coming from someone who has supported some policies. And one of the policies that I was looking forward to seeing before the controversy came was investment in solar and wind energy, which I'm hoping whoever is the new mayor coming down the line, that they are looking at alternative forms of energy in the future. And also just in general, looking at outside sources of income for the city outside of the tax base.
One thing that I took from the Correa administration as a positive would be public safety, which I happen to work in and have for many years now, with a great appreciation to Mr. Dion for obtaining the fire trucks for the Fall River Fire Department. There's a lot of work that still needs to be done, okay? I've heard a lot of false narratives over the past few months that the police department's double in size. Negative, not true. To my last, from what I was told last, we have 168 patrolmen, and the rest are administrative staff, okay? We run 10 cars 5 days a week in the city of Fall River, which is completely ridiculous. Some of our police officers, which I'm being told now the radios are coming in, our police officers and firefighters have had radios that haven't worked in the north end of Fall River. I left it 11 years ago. They didn't work then, and they didn't work during the Fall Winds fire this past January. That's an issue. That's something that needs to be addressed.
The only thing that I would move forward would be public safety, the amount of money that Mr. Dion's office actually came up with the money, Mr. Peckham's right, for the fire trucks. And I think that we need to continue to do that through the police department, because I think we fell short on the police department. They need new vehicles. I had talked about Shot Spotter. The mayor had gotten rid of that, but then all of a sudden, we got it back. The police need as many tools as they can get to combat the crime that we have in the city. I would push for that. Anything else that they've done, I never voted for streetscapes. I knew it was going to be an abysmal failure, and it's turned out to be. So I never voted for that. But everything else that was done, that's it, stop. This should be a new beginning for an administration to be honest, full of integrity, transparent to the people, and spend the taxpayers' money wisely. Thank you.
So what I think the Correa administration did well was leveraging our bond dollars. I know that there were some comments made recently and just a little while ago about not wanting to bond. Well, let me tell you that if you don't bond, we don't have a Durfee High School that is being built on Ellsbury Street. If we don't bond, we aren't doing infrastructure repairs, because the Chapter 90 money that the city of Fall River receives for road repair is $2 million a year. If we don't bond, we're pretty much not repairing all of our schools that we have brand new windows going in some of the schools like Tansy. So what the Correa administration has done well is they've kept us under our $10 million debt for bonding. They've leveraged that. Unfortunately, we did have to go to a debt exclusion to build the new Durfee High School.
There's much to be looked at that's happened with this council and this mayor over the past several years. A few of those items, when the previous mayor, prior to Mayor Correa, was in office, he declared that Fall River was close to being in receivership. And we went from being close to being in receivership to now having almost a $10 million surplus rainy day fund. So I hope that any future administration will continue to grow that fund so that Fall River can be prepared for any difficulties, whether they be 9C cuts or some other kind of financial situation that requires a resource to have. Also, this administration was responsible for the elimination of very unpopular fees, both the trash fee and the purple bag fee. Property owners and rent payers need relief, and there was some relief provided because of those two eliminations.
If you would like to see the entire 1.5-hour forum, you could watch that on our regular programming on FRC Media, Channel 95. We'll have more FRC Media news right after this.
Thank you for considering a homeless pet today. I hope you enjoy what you're about to see, and as always, please feel free to contact the shelter before coming down to make sure that the pets you're viewing are still available for adoption. We can be reached at 508-677-9154.
Welcome to Hot Dogs and Cool Cats. Today we have 3 African clawed frogs. African clawed frogs get their name from their 3 claws on their hind feet, which are used to tear apart their food. They have become really popular household pets because they are extremely hardy and easy to care for and live a very long time. They grow to be about 4 to 5 inches long, and they live as long as 20 to 30 years in captivity. They typically eat waxworms, earthworms, feeder fish, bloodworms, brine shrimp, and even some dog and cat food are good options for them, or hot dogs. Hot dogs that are all natural, no fillers in it, are the best ones. They do grow to the size of their environment, so the bigger the tank, the bigger they will grow. If you're interested in coming down and learning more about these guys and possibly putting in an application, please come on down to Forever Paws.
Today we have Penny. Penny came into the shelter. She's about 2 years old. She came in with 4 kittens. She's a little shy, very independent, would take time to warm up to her new home. She is very shy and skittish. So if you want to come down and meet Penny, we're at 300 Linwood Street, Forever Paws Animal Shelter. She would love to meet you and find her new forever home.
In addition to registered voters voting for mayor and city council candidates, they will also have a chance to vote for school committee members. They were asked during a forum, I should say that the candidates themselves were asked during an FRCmedia forum, what do charter schools have that you'd like to see the Fall River public school system mimic? Here's what they had to say.
The only issue that I might have with the charter schools, and when it's funded and they add more tables, more chairs to the classrooms and to the school itself, is I want to make sure that the city, the Fall River School Department, is not losing any funding because of that. I want the state to reimburse the school if we're losing seats to the charter schools. We got 2 charter schools in the city. If we're losing seats to the school and to the classrooms, I want to make sure we're reimbursed for those. And a lot of times we're not. And I think that's very unfair. For school choice, all for it, no question about it. But those are just one of the issues that I have with the charter school.
Thank you. Mr. Hetzler.
I don't know of any programs that the charter schools have that we don't have. I'm not aware of them. None of my kids go to a charter school. My 2 oldest go to Diamond, so I know there's shops, but we have some trades now at Durfee, and we're looking to expand. The only thing, and I don't want this, but one thing they do differently is they get to decide who goes to their school, where we don't have a choice here in the Fall River Public Schools. We will take every child. So when a child is sent out of a charter school or a vocational school or whatever it may be, they come to Fall River, and it's our job to educate them, and we're going to do our best to do that job and make the community better for it. Thank you.
Mr. Correa.
I don't know too much about charter schools, but I do know that their offerings, their course offerings, and their enrichment programs do not rival those in public education. They simply don't have the budget to sustain the wealth of the athletics program or theatrical programs or music programs such as we do in the public schools. So I know that parents go charter for school choice. There's a lot more choices available in public education, which I've always been a strong proponent of. I'm a product of it, and so are my 4 children, product of Fall River Public Schools, and I feel like we do a great job educating the whole child. Thank you.
Perception is everything. I think, and I too, I'm happy that folks in the community and parents have some school choice, but let's face it, there's a perception that it's more structured, higher discipline. Those are the things that we have to work on. What concerns me, and I'm sure it concerns others on the stage tonight, is you have a publicly funded school that is not accessible by everybody via the lottery. You know, I mean, I live in the Maplewood section. The high school that I can walk to is almost like a taxpayer-funded prep school at this point. Not open really to the public. I mean, it's locked up at the end of I'm not aware that you could walk on their track or use the facilities of the general public. And again, that's something that concerns me, that there are students being left out. I think there are other issues when, again, as Mr. Hetzler stated, when there's kids that they can't serve, we have to find a way to do it.
As far as new and innovative programming at the charter school, I'm not aware of very many. I think that has something to do with the lack of collaboration between our administration and the charter school. But I also think many years ago, when the charter schools were implemented, that was really the mission, was they were going to try things that we don't typically do in a regular school. Then we were going to be able to see what works, what doesn't work, and be able to pull from there. Quite frankly, I don't think they're doing very many things that are different. Doesn't mean whether it's better or worse. I just don't think that they're doing all that many different things that we can learn from. I think in some ways, if collaboration, they might be able to learn from some of the things that our great teachers and staff are doing in our schools. So I think that's one of the issues. The other issue we talked about was when you talk about choice for parents, we really got to take a hard look at why do parents choose to bring their students and their children to one school versus another. That's from K to 8 as well as the high school. I think we need to step up and do a study of some type to look at the landscape of what are the purposes of all the different schools and why are students going to one versus another.
One of the things that I liked about one of the charter schools is the fact that the parents and the children had access to teachers after hours. There was a cell phone, there was a text availability and an email availability that these teachers could answer questions for students in reference to homework, because a lot of times, you know, a kid is sitting down at 6 o'clock at night to do their homework, and they don't have the opportunity right after school to do it and have access to those teachers. So that's one program that I think that if we could implement, I think it would be very helpful to parents and students.
I will say that I agree with a number of things that have been said this evening. Primarily, that I think when you talk to parents who choose charter, there's an expectation that it's somewhat better, or that it is better than the public schools, and I would push back and challenge those parents on that, as I had in the past. You know, I think some of the things that they do in charters we've attempted to replicate. We tried to keep our class sizes down, tried to make our instruction more individualized for students. But someone mentioned it. The reality is that they can hand select students that go to charters, and we don't necessarily have that luxury. We educate students regardless. And so, you know, could we do better? Absolutely. But I would say that, you know, I think the education that a student can get in the public schools, my 3 children have either been in the school system, and I have one that graduated from here, and I would say to all the parents whose students go to charter school, that's your choice and preference. But I think we're doing a great job in our schools. Our teachers are making an impact in students' lives. Our students are going off and graduating and going to Ivy League schools. So the notion or perception that charters are better, they may have some more flexibility because of their charter, but I'm not necessarily sure that if you put apples and apples together, that they're doing a much better job than we are.
Again, the Fall River final election is going to be held November 5th. Polls open at 7 in the morning and close at 8 o'clock. Get out and vote. That's it for this edition of FRC Media News. You can catch FRC Media News Thursday and Friday at 6 p.m., but our online news site is available 24/7 at frcmedianews.org. For all of us here at FRC Media News, I'm Donna Mata. Have a great week. We'll see you next Thursday.